Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to Symbaroum. Wednesday night. This is what we do on Wednesday nights. We are very rapidly approaching the climax of the Witchhammer, the second part of the Throne of Thorns campaign. And yeah, we hope you are excited. We are excited about what horrors await us in the tunnels under Karvosti. But before we start talking about that, let's maybe start talking about the channel in general and links and exciting promo stuff. If you check down below this video, you'll find a bunch of links. You'll find links to YouTube and to Twitch. You're watching on one, please do check out the other one. You'll find links to our social media, our Patreon, our Discord, our everything. We've got a merch store, all that fun stuff. Just click in the link tree. It'll all be there. We currently run three regular campaigns. Mondays is Vason, Wednesdays is Symbaroum, Thursdays alternates between Wicked Ones and the Big Wet, although the Big Wet's been on hold for quite some time. Should maybe be returning next week. But we still have to kind of confirm that. Life stuff, I'm sure you understand. We also run one-shots on a monthly basis, or at least try to. The most recent of which was Grok, which is a lovely little indie system that'll be appearing on YouTube at some point soon. And the current plan, not maybe set in stone at this point, is to do the third installment of Johnny Space Thulu this weekend. I'm trying to remember. I believe it's on the 3rd, which is Sunday. Yes. So look out for that. Hopefully that will happen. But if not, life, etc., as I keep saying. Yeah, I think that's about it. So with that in mind, let's start bringing on the players for Symbaroum. And this week, we are going to start with Stephen. Hello.
Not that guy.
Oh, that guy. God.
Hello.
He's my least favorite Stephen on the stream.
Same.
Yeah. Stephen plays Elindra, former Templar novice turned sellsword, probably the most hawkish of the group in terms of attitude. And more importantly, Stephen is going to give us a bit of a meta recap. Why are we here? Specifically speaking, not in general.
So in something of a contrast to the ever increasing recaps that we've had lately, we're actually at a point of the simple where things are comparatively simple for all their complexity. We're Ambrians from Ambria. We're treasure hunters in the forest of Davakar, and we have been on the trail of what I guess you would call the ultimate treasure, the lost city of Symbar, where sweet loot awaits. Sweet cursed loot. We've been mostly gathering clues to get us to the point that we are under the impression that we were kind of independent treasure seekers. We have been strong-armed by people working for Queen Corinthia, and it's been made pretty clear to us that we're going to be doing the rest of what we're doing in service of the crown. So to that end, we are looking for something in the tunnels under Karvosti. And yeah, the one bit of information from the adventure so far that I've fished out from my notes is some cryptic clues about what we might encounter next from somebody that we met called a leader, which I'm just going to read out. These may or may not be what we were told, but they were what I wrote down. So if they're wrong, it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, if they're wrong, then Elindra is also wrong. So
yeah.
Role play.
Exactly. So she was talking about the ways into the tunnels under Karvosti, either through the witch's dwelling or the undergate, which is, I think, what we're passing through deep in the tunnels. She gave advice on a rough location for finding it. The undergate is deep near a large chamber where something dwells. There's a reliquary, a tapestry room, a sculpture hall, maybe something by the power node. And someone to ask. We can seek out the former Huldra, Aurelia. She's locked in a chamber above the undergate. She can help if she is herself. to punish Yoletta. And if she isn't herself, we should leave. She's possessed by something powerful and dangerous. We should follow the wider tunnels, avoid cracks. If we see triangle markings, then up, down means up or down. Right means north and left means south. And we should avoid pungent, sickly smells and northern parts of the cliff because something lives there. That's what I got down.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid. That's pretty solid and comprehensive stuff of the information you had from a leader. Let's see if any of it makes sense at all once you make contact with what is beyond the Undergate. And let's bring on our next player. It's Chris. Chris plays Steo, terminally grumbly and pessimistic, and also Steo. Yeah, former infantryman and town guard turned, I guess, the opposite of the most hawkish member of the group. Sort of. I mean, in a way and in a way not. At the very least, Steo is striving for a solution that will probably bring the least violence to the least number of innocent people. So yeah, Steo, Chris rather, how is Steo feeling now with the Undergate open ahead of him and a hell of a lot of complexity to any possible plan he might have in the form of not only the Queen's Rangers but now also Father Argaton Salage of the Black Cloaks accompanying you? It's all a bit complicated.
We've got a merry band of named NPCs in the group now who probably have pretty impressive stats blocks. Steo on the way in did implant to everyone secretly a hidden code phrase that will allow us to turn on the other non-in on the plan members of the party, the wider party. But in the cold light of the fact that a lot of these people seem to be very powerful, if not straight up nobles themselves, he's a bit nervous.
Yeah. Father Argaton Salage is definitely a noble. The Salage family is noted. And I think I think I probably made the group roll for this when you met him, and I can't remember if anyone succeeded or not. So if anyone feels they know anything about the Salage family and an even more famous member of it, I don't know if they. When you come on, say something. If not, then whoever rolled probably failed. So there we go. Let's bring on the next player, though. Let's bring on Mike, who returns to us last session. No, you've been in back for 2 sessions, right? No?
Yeah. I don't know. Time is a pretty nebulous thing.
Yeah. Mike plays Anton, Holy Man of Prios, roller of terrible dice. I mean, that's Mike, not Anton, but yeah. I kind
of get the impression that Anton would also roll terribly if he were to roll within a roleplay game.
Yeah. I completely agree. How is Anton feeling about the situation?
Probably not good after meeting your man Salage, because I think he seemed pretty tough, and with a group of pretty tough Black Cloaks, and they got absolutely minced, it seems. So yeah, this ain't good. This doesn't bode well.
I mean, to be fair, they got minced in the place where you didn't get minced. So
yeah,
maybe it's all fine.
Yeah, I think Anton would prefer to have more Black Cloaks here, though. Maybe just like more bodies at this point seems like a better thing to have.
Yeah, almost certainly. More human shields would probably be a plus. Speaking of human shields, let's bring on Sam. Hey, Sam. Sam plays Ascarai, Changeling Ranger. Certainly not a human shield, if anything, a human shield killing machine. That sounds terrible. Sam, how's Askarai feeling now that you're here on the verge of your success / doom?
I mean, I think there's
Doomsess.
been a lot of build up to this point. I think obviously there's a bit of fear that we're going to find something really, really bad down here, but also quite a lot of excitement that, like, you know, we've been building up to this for months probably at this point in game, and you know, now we've actually made it. I think Esquire probably takes the opposite view to how Anton sees the kind of failure of the other groups, where, like, the fact that the Black Cloaks failed, even the Rangers who are with us got kind of messed up in Far Maroon, and we've emerged from this like relatively unscathed, makes Askrai think that, like, okay, maybe we're like the strongest people here. Maybe we're kind of in charge of this situation just a little bit, and you know, they need us quite badly to help them do this. So yeah, he's taken a bit of confidence from that, and yeah, he's terrified but excited, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when has a sense of self-exceptionalism ever hurt anyone investigating Davokar? You're almost certainly safe in quantum hell. Everything's absolutely fine, and yeah, I'm sure it'll work out for the best for everyone.
No doubt.
Let's bring on our final player of the day. It's John. John plays Sir Arindar, last remaining member of the Lost House of Dar, duelist, sort of conscience of the group. Often used as a negotiator of the group, despite fucking god awful persuasive stats. How's Sadar, and more importantly, how is his cat feeling about Karvosti?
Sadar is I mean, I've been trying to think how Aaron really feels about everything. I think a part of him is still just happy to have come along. Like, as far as he's aware, like, these 4 people just sort of wandered into his life, asked him some questions, and then he never left them alone. And now they're going on fantastic adventures. So yes, there's the whole question of treason, ? Apocalypse ? But he's, you know, trying not to think about that in the moment. As for Farron cares not for all of this politics and probably has no idea what's going on. But I think he's also probably quite perturbed that they're in a creepy underground cavern and there doesn't appear to be any good hunting down here. But largely, neither of them really know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a good general status as well. And you know what? While we're talking about this stuff, let's bring up this lovely art of the Undergate. And I'll very quickly run through what happened last session, but I feel we're largely covered. And then I think Stephen has some idea what the Salage family name might mean. But generally speaking, in the last session, you'd left the siege camp around Karvosti, Queen Corinthia having laid siege to the plateau, and proceeded to meet up with the Rangers, who you've been kind of, you say strong armed, but you did kind of agree to it. The choice was yours. Just, you know, there were some strong motivators to make that choice. And after having met with them and spoken with them, quite specifically kind of Captain Marvello, who you already knew and had worked with in a friendly manner, you proceeded to the rift that led you to the underworld, and through there you traveled for hours, basically a kind of day and a half or so, or day of travel, until you reached the Undergate itself, outside which was sat, rather surprisingly, Father Agaton Salage, the last surviving Black Cloak of their own expedition. And yeah, you figured out the mnemonic and the mechanism on the gate, which you'd obviously gone on these long trips to find out information on, and it opened with relatively little difficulty, other than the fact that you did it in exactly wrong the first time, but then you did it exactly right the second time. So it's open ahead of you. And as I say, it opens up A distinctive stale smell washes out of the tunnel ahead of you and over you. Obviously, all of you, or many of you, are kind of carrying torches down here. Although parts of the underworld have been, somewhat have had some kind of light, kind of bioluminescent algae and moss of various kinds. That is not the case with this tunnel that opens up ahead of you under Karvosti. It is dark. It is pitch dark. It is almost a manifest darkness that you feel. You feel like you're looking out from the chamber you're in into a void. You're not, though, to be clear. I am being, I'm using artistry of words, not to be taken literally.
Has the natural light until this point been enough that we didn't need torches, or do we already have torches out?
Oh, in various places, such as I think I described, the cavern you were in that had like a pool of water. There, you could have doused the torches there easily and seen in a kind of slightly dimish, bioluminescence. So various places, not so much, but broadly, yeah. Don't get me wrong, most of the places in the underworld, if you doused the torches, it would have been dark and you wouldn't have been able to see. This feels different.
Yeah.
It's a darkness. Your torches feel like they perhaps aren't penetrating as far into the tunnel as they should. It may literally be a trick of the light.
Was there something similar to this under the Sun Temple?
I think there was.
Okay.
But either way, there's instantly among, not necessarily you control your own characters, obviously, but among the other people you're with, there certainly seems to be a slight pausing of it. It is an intimidating moment.
Well, this is what we're here for. Come a long way to get this far.
Yep,
Ways forward.
Marvello nods. Right.
Is there anything else that looks like an exit from this room except for the gateway and the place that we came in? I'm looking specifically for anything that looks like it might go up.
No, nothing like that at all. You can see the roof in its entirety.
We ready?
Marvello nods and has already taken a couple of steps quite carefully towards the tunnel and is kind of looking around the edges of the gate with his torch, which is probably a relatively smart idea just in case. He seems fairly satisfied with what he sees and kind of takes a few paces forward. Nothing happens.
I guess carry on moving through, trying to figure out, get some light on this chamber that's behind and see how big it is, what entrances and exits there are.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's definitely not a chamber. It's a tunnel. Or perhaps you could call this a corridor at this stage. You don't know. Two details kind of very immediately stand out. One is that the ground is covered with a fine-grained stone dust, which makes it impossible for anyone not to notice the footprints. There are tracks leading what look to be kind of in sort of both directions. And there are also a lot of other markings in the dust, a lot of them, but the shape is quite difficult to identify. But obviously more details can be rendered if someone decides to have a look at them.
I think Esco's definitely going to have a look at them, try and figure out what the other markings are, and also learn whatever he can from the footprints, how many people, different people, and when, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, why don't you give me first off, give me a cunning roll at +5, and then give me a flat cunning roll, please.
Okay, so the first one was a 20, which fails. The second one was a 10, which passes.
Okay. Are you satisfied with those results?
No, but I'm not going to re-roll.
Not going to reroll. Okay. So you find it quite difficult to tell any detail from the footprints, possibly because your attention is distracted by the other tracks in the dust. As I say, there are lots of them. Some are small and almost round. Others are a decimeter long, thin with smudged outlines. You draw your conclusion relatively quickly. These are the tracks of spiders, some running, others hopping. The biggest one is big. Real big.
Spiders. There's spiders. Big. Not good.
Well, how big?
Give me another cunning roll.
Okay. That's a 12. Does not pass.
You don't know, but you know the risk of repeating myself. Big.
Bigger than any spider's meant to be. That's certain. I don't know how big compared to other animals. I've never seen tracks like this from spiders.
I'm happy to at the very least minimize it for you based on previous experience with spiders. Smaller than Xanatha.
Okay.
But that's not saying much.
Not demigod sized.
Not quite.
They're small enough to fit in the tunnel, but big enough to be a problem.
I mean, big enough to leave noticeable tracks is not a good size for spiders.
If spiders are the limits of the problems we are going to encounter underneath this folly, then we are going to have a very, very good day. Let's see what we can find further up.
Lindra is also knelt down by the other tracks. She's been examining them while you've been going back and forth about the spiders. This is one person. Soft boots, small. Tracks leading away from the door and leading back towards it.
Do you know how long ago?
There's no way to tell in an environment like this.
Well,
but I can guess, as I'm sure you can.
Almendra.
And if she knew where she was going, these could be a boon.
Did we... This Matt question. Did we get any sense, going way back to our conversations with Crueljaw, of whether Almendra, to his knowledge, had been under Karvosti, like before she went missing? Like, had he seen her since she'd come? Like, did we know that she'd been in and come out?
Yeah. I mean, that's why you were trying to find your way under here, really.
To find out what she knew.
I think Crueljaw said that she retrieved the hammer from here and then gave it to the... I don't know. I can't remember the term. The head father of the Sun Temple. And then left.
Correct.
or went missing at that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
and
think
she
we
didn't
do-
seem to be in terribly good shape.
I think we do know that she got the information about Simba under here. Like, I'm not sure exactly from where, but I think we definitely, if we don't know that for certain, we have
Okay.
that impression. I think.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember whether we knew that she'd been and come out, or whether she was last seen heading in here. But I guess
no.
We know that.
She had returned. She saw Cruel Jaw on her return from
Okay.
finding the location of Simba.
Cool.
Do you reckon we can follow those footprints? It's going to be difficult.
Not if they're as clear as they are here.
Ask Gray, I suppose. Between the pair of you, do you think you can get the trail?
Yeah, I mean, right here, there's only one where they could go, so we've got a easy start. But like,
Well, then, no one rushes in front of these two. Then, yeah.
And also keep your eyes peeled in the ceiling as well, because we'd be foolish to assume that the spiders are just restricted to the floor like we are.
Yeah.
All right. Lindra stands up and glances at you, Askrai, and says, "Behind me," and starts walking quite slowly ahead.
so forward and behind.
As the rest of the group kind of starts moving, Marvello kind of takes a look behind and says, "Are we closing the gate or leaving it open?"
Does it look like it could be opened from the other side? Like, we only know how to open it from the outside, right? Unless the inside has got a similar kind of freeze or a mechanism.
It has an identical freeze.
Okay. Then yes, let's close it. I don't really want us to have any company.
Marvello nods and kind of slings his shield and beckons you over.
I'll
We
go
think
over.
it's safe to assume that the outgoing code is the same as the incoming code. And I'll look at the one who gave us
Yosefia?
the yes.
Zephyr? She shrugs and says, "There was only one mnemonic according to Bartho."
The freeze is identical. Would you be more comfortable with this left open?
I mean, if we think the only people that have come this way from the inside is Elmendra and some spiders, I suppose it depends on how likely someone is to come by from the outside.
I don't think we know how many people are on this trail.
There's other dangers in the outer cave that we know of because they were in the visions. I think we should close the door.
Marvello nods and sets his shoulder to it. If a couple of other people help, there's no need to make rolls or anything.
Yes, I'll help.
Lindra and Stio and Arendar, you lean in and it glides shut remarkably quietly and smoothly. And there's only a semi-audible click as it fixes into place in the frame. The people at the back then kind of probably move a bit quickly to catch up with the people further in. But there's one thing, no matter where you are in the party, that stands out to you as you walk down these these tunnels. First of all, this main tunnel seems kind of wide and probably man-made. And secondly, something, as far as it could feel right down here, something doesn't feel right. In fact, something feels terribly wrong, and there is a growing sense of unease and anxiety in all of you as you start making your way down the tunnel. The soft stone dust kind of sinking around your feet as you pace forwards. It's not long before you start seeing traces of webbing, cobwebs lining the walls, the ceiling. They are kind of drifting and moving slightly in a breeze you cannot feel. And overall, it's not a terribly pleasant place to be. I would, in addition, like everyone, to make a vigilant test at -5 as you kind of pace forward over the course of a few minutes. Thumbs up and thumbs down, please. There we go. Okay, that's easy. Everyone on the right-hand side succeeded. Everyone on the... Oh, Chris is a minus. Okay.
Sorry, had to break the pattern. I forgot about the -5.
Yeah, that's fine. So Steo, so Anton and Ascarai are successful. The others aren't. The others just feel this sense of unease through which they can maybe not identify a cause of it. And for the other two of you, I mean, you're not sure if this is the cause of the sense of unease, but it certainly seems odd and out of place. Both of you notice two distinct sounds, kind of very low and distant, but sounds nevertheless. One is what sounds like the soft flow of waves sweeping over bedrock. The other is a powerful throbbing sound, so low-pitched it can hardly be heard, but instead felt. Every 15 breaths, there is another throb, sending shivers down your spine and causing the rock underneath your feet to tremble ever so slightly.
Do we get any sense of what, like, the direction that's coming from? If we're heading towards it or away from it?
It feels like it's coming
All
from
around.
all around. Although the sound of water and waves does slightly increase as you walk forwards.
Can I just make a sort of mental note to like keep on counting the breaths between those like bigger throbs and see if like it increases or decreases in frequency?
If it changes, yeah, absolutely, yeah, of course. Before long, another few minutes pass, and a crack kind of appears in the wall to the left of you. It seems again kind of man-made and hewed out. When I say these are man-made tunnels, by the way, I don't want to give the impression that they're like properly clad or anything like that. But you can definitely see like chisel marks on the walls where they've been kind of hacked out. They're not natural. The tunnel off to the left, and let's try and make this correct. Sorry, Stephen, could you read out the triangle system again?
What I have in my notes is that if the triangle markings up or down mean exactly that.
Up or down, yeah.
Right means north, which if we're heading east would actually be to our left.
If you're heading east.
Yeah, which we sort of were.
Yeah, you'd imagine you're kind of heading east.
Yeah, right means north and left means south, which, yes, seems backwards for the direction that we're going in, but that's what's in the notes.
Okay. Well, next to this crack... Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and I don't have it in my notes, but I dimly recall that the reason that we noted this down was because I guess the triangles are there to try to provide direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you think
we
so?
should... Well, yeah, I think we should try to follow them if we see them.
But I guess the question is, follow them to where? If you don't know where something is, you know what I mean. Next to this crack, regardless, is a triangle pointing upwards. The tracks, as followed by Lindra ahead, do not go into it. And I want you to imagine while we're beneath Karvosti, okay? This is not... I do have a map, but this is not the kind of space where we're going to like really focus on the map like we did in Symbaroum or to a certain extent in other places we've gone. Karvosti is a mass of like winding tunnels and sides. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to go, there's a thing on the left and there's a thing on the right all the way through this. So we're going to play it a bit fast and loose. I just wanted to illustrate that there is a side thing, but the tracks are not going in that direction. That apparently leads up, but who knows?
What was the thing that we know is above in the chamber above the gate? Is it the previous Huldra?
Aurelia, yes, who, depending on whether she's herself, may be helpful or maybe something we want to stay away from. But I guess we won't know unless we get close.
But we were also told to stay to the larger tunnels, weren't we?
And away from the cracks, yeah. So here is a thing that goes up, which is where we want to go if we want to find her, and it's on a feature that we were told to avoid.
I would say on the balance of things, better to follow what is hopefully Almendra rather than risk if this Huldra is helpful or unhelpful and go into this crack that we've been told to avoid.
I suppose it feels like if we could find the Huldra and she was in a cooperative mood, that could be extremely useful. But I agree, it doesn't look good.
Yeah. So, at least for the moment, Lindra certainly does not seem to have any illusions about doing anything but following these tracks. And Marvello seems very comfortable to take a lead. Kind of, she, you know, he's not a ranger; he's just leading rangers, and is clearly well aware that a ranger is better suited to the task of navigating down here. As ever, DeGesto and Malamai are happy to follow your lead. And again, Yosefia and her two cronies seem perfectly happy to be along for the ride. In fact, Yosefia has seemed in a particularly relatively good spirits since you closed the door.
So what do we think? Do we take a look in the crack or do we leave it alone?
Leave it alone. Follow the instructions that we got from the village.
But the instructions also said to seek out the Huldra.
But
maybe there's a way to seek out the Huldra through a main tunnel.
Yes.
Perhaps.
If they gave us both information and they seem contradictory, then that must mean that there is another way to follow both instructions at the same time.
Who knows what it means, but let's work with that as a theory.
I think the certainty is that Almendra got to where we need to go. So until we get to a part where we can't follow her footsteps, then that seems like the safe bet. To try other options if we, for whatever reason, can no longer follow Almendra.
Okay.
Lindra has sort of barely listened to this and looks to just be kind of impatiently waiting, kind of at the edge of the torches for you to reach probably the same conclusion that she reached, and carry on forwards. And as you do so, she nods kind of curtly and carries on walking. As you walk forwards, you note that there is this sort of quite large tunnel that you're in. You see a number of other tunnels reaching off to the side as you go. They are mostly smaller than the one you're in. They have various different triangles. Again, I'm not, this isn't a maze we're going to be planning out, but if we're following these tracks, they're leading us along the tunnel we started on. At a point maybe 10 or so minutes later, Lindra comes to a halt and kind of leans forward. I thought I saw something on the edge of the torchlight here. She's kind of looking all around the edge of her vision. Ascarai, do you kind of come to a similar stop, or?
Yeah, probably get my bow ready and try and
Okay.
look around.
Can you make a vigilant test for me, please?
That's an 18.
So is that a fail?
Yep, just about.
Okay. Are you two going to... well, actually, I should probably roll for Lindra as well, and then we'll go to the next step if she fails her roll, which she does, remarkably, given that she's got 15 in Vigilant. Okay. You can't see anything. Lindra can't see anything. She's kind of making a noise, a kind of, probably nothing noise, and seems to be ready to step forwards. Is that also what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, is this still part of just like the corridor? Is there like,
Yeah,
are we
it's just this main tunnel, leading down. I want to make it clear that you don't feel there's any like massive beasties lurking. Like it's not that sense. She just thought she saw something.
Yeah, I mean, if we both had a look and can't see anything, I think we'd. What else we gotta do?
Just go forward. Yeah.
If you got any objections to me failing a witch sight roll in that attempt to see if that helps?
You certainly can, but I was under in my head. This wasn't a thing shared with the rest of the party. If you see what I mean, it's like the tunnels are like you can probably only fit like 2 abreast.
Okay, so that was a conversation between the two of them.
Yeah. I think more so, but maybe the 2 behind could have heard. But I think we kind of established you're at the back with Marvello and Steo. So I
failed that roll anyway, so
that's fine. I think Lindra will probably want to try that anyway, right? Down here, maybe.
It's not been seen yet whether you can see shadows in the dark. But
I think you can. I think you can see shadows in the dark, but more than anything, like I in my head, I've expanded the witch sight ability to like a lot of the mechanical stuff in the game is like you see the shadows of individuals, or I know it says places, but then it never gives you any for places. But there's also I think there's also just a general sixth sense about it, right? That like might give you certain indications if certain things are happening. And those certain things seem, I mean, it's in the name, right? Feels like the tunnels under Karvosti might be a place that witch sight reveals things.
Yep. But not to me at this moment.
But not today. Okay. Ascarai and Lindra, you step forward and almost immediately realize what it was that Lindra saw as both of you sort of tear through some bundles of very fine cobwebs that were sort of strung literally right in front of you, but you couldn't see them. They're so fine and so translucent, and you were just not really looking for that. And you basically both kind of tear through them, and Lindra sort of scrapes them off her front and kind of rolls them up in sort of disgust. Nothing happens apart from I'd like you to roll a d10.
This doesn't feel like nothing to me. Okay. That's a 7.
Okay, carry on.
That's horribly mean. This would definitely trigger Ascarai to look around again and be like, okay, did we just like, is a spider about to murder us? But I mean, assuming that is not the case, then I guess we carry on following these tracks, but maybe with a bit more of an eye for cobwebs.
Are you giving any indication to the rest of the party that like things might be afoot?
I don't know. Like, I think
Lindra doesn't seem Lindra doesn't seem overly concerned. She pauses for a moment to see if spiders are about to leap out, and then once they become apparent they're not, she actually takes a torch and just like runs it around this area of the corridor, and you see like cobwebs suddenly like flare into flame and then dissipate as she does so.
Yeah.
Okay then. So Lindra just starts walking forward again.
That's right. There's keeping more of an eye out for this kind of thing. I think maybe let Lindra do the tracks, and Askar will be being extra vigilant. But
sure. So as you proceed forward, the tunnel sort of changes slightly. The ground, it still has that rock dust over it that lets you follow the tracks so easily. But the kind of ground directly underneath it, the rock underneath it, is much more porous. The air is steadily growing both warmer and damper, and there are a greater number of openings on either side of the tunnel that you're on, and a number of them you see as you go past seem to lead to kind of large, almost like hall style chambers. None of the footprints are not deviating as of the moment, though. So, you know. Okay. You follow them for another few minutes, and you reach basically what seems to be a sort of almost like a round cave where that's surrounded by these kind of offshoots of these sort of what seem to be these larger halls. Ahead of you, there seems to be a like another like more of the tunnel leading onwards in the direction that you were heading. The footprints head sort of directly along the tunnel directly into that tunnel further, just carrying on straight. But you can see that for the first time, there is a divergence with the return footprints. So let me play, like, Lindra will pace it out, and both of you and her can reach this conclusion quite easily. If this is Elmendra, she went through here, dead ahead, and then returned, and then headed into one of these halls off the side, and then came back and headed back towards the gate.
okay, I mean, I think we definitely discuss this with the whole party. Looks like Almondra returned, went down this other tunnel, and then came back. I don't know which is better to follow. I mean, maybe we could cut out a dangerous part of this journey and just go to the crux of it if we follow the second direction that she went. Or maybe we'll be missing what we're looking for entirely, and she headed up that way for another reason.
The Ordo Magica master Alicina is sort of as this discussion is happening, she's wandered towards like the entrance of this hall that's off the side of this round sort of cave, and is kind of sniffing the air as if recognizing something.
I will also go and sniff the air.
Okay. Give me a vigilant roll that's -3.
Oh no. That is not a success.
No, you like. There's a very musty scent, but you don't really recognize any of it.
Does Ferrin recognize anything different?
No, not really. As you're doing this, though, the mage, who has not acknowledged your presence in the slightest, Arendar, cocks her head to the side in curiosity and just walks into the hall.
This is
Wow.
the hall where Almendra's footprints went.
Yeah. So, God,
The-
it might actually be easier if I just jot out a little thing here. I think maybe.
Yeah. So, well, at first she took a tunnel straight ahead, and then she came back and took a tunnel to one side, and then she left.
Yeah, correct.
And this is the tunnel to one side.
Let me just. I'm just gonna do a bit of a thing as a bit of an aid, because I am aware that it's. And then there, and then there. Now, don't obviously when I've like ended the different things, don't think that you'll get it. You'll get it. I think probably. So this is where you've come in, and her footprints. This is exactly what you were describing, Stephen. But I just want to make sure everyone grasps it as well as you have. But just kind of crossing the chamber where you are going in here. And again, I don't want to give the impression you see this turn here. You don't. I just wanted to make sure everyone understands this one set of tracks. Goes into there, comes out and goes up to like this hall that leads off. And then the tracks that return to the undergate come from there. So yeah, she came from here. She went in there. She went up here. And then she left.
Okay.
Presumably they go quite they could go leagues in both those directions for all you know. But it is that hall that's the place she left from that that the mage just wandered into, essentially.
Sure. If that's where the mage has gone, I will kind of turn around to the others and shrug, and if there's no obvious signs that I shouldn't do that, I will follow the mage, because why not?
Okay. Well, what you find within this hall, and anyone else who heads into it will find this as well, that's in the porous stone at this low level of Karvosti's tunnel. The Huldra and her aides have been growing a hell of a lot of algae, mushrooms, lichen, rock formations and stalagmites divide a hall that's almost 200 meters long, a slightly sloping cave into a number of sections, each with many cultivated, presumably ingredients growing on the floors and the walls. You can tell the size of this hall because now you're in here. The entire thing is lit with bioluminescence from a number of these growing things. The mage is kind of like knelt down near a bed of mushrooms and is kind of looking over them with the expression of a hobbyist of something who's just stumbled on a treasure trove.
Any of was it a mushroom or something that we needed to get to the elf place?
I was just going
no,
to
no.
say, is there enough light in here for me to shoot Arendar a look?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that look was supposed to mean. And you're on mute.
It's fine. The internet should not know what I just said.
Sure. Well, yeah, Alicina is kind of poring over this bed of mushrooms and then is kind of moving along and examining various other things, like plucking the occasional thing from a patch and tucking it away in her robes. She's muttering under her breath, and as she does so, kind of Marvello strides over to her and starts talking to her in sort of a hushed tone. This is all quite a large space, so it's not necessarily audible what they're saying or doing.
There's
Are there
no other
other
exits from.
footprints in, like from witches, if they're cultivating this place? Are there other footprints?
Give me a vigilant roll.
Okay. That is an 11, which passes.
Okay. You know what? As you're looking round the like a particularly kind of yellowish great patch of lichen that almost like quivers slightly as you walk past it, you hope with the vibration of your footsteps, but perhaps not. Davakar rears some strange plant life. You do discover another set of footprints, definitely larger than those of Elmendra, and following them only a few paces leads you to another discovery around the side of a stalactite. You turn and see a what appears to be a dead man dressed in the robes of a witch. There is a basket of desiccated mushrooms kind of sprawled at his side, and you can basically just see kind of he has his face tilted to one side. He has been dead quite some time, and you would lay odds on him having been a Zarek witch, because you can see that there's orange and blue markings. You can still see kind of the pigment of them on his face, which is more desiccated than it is rotted. You're guessing there's not maybe a huge amount of bacteria down here in this relatively sterile environment. Not that you'd know what bacteria was, probably. So there we go. Sorry, we just diverted into World of Fucking Darkness or something there for a second. But yeah, it's a dead witch, and they've been dead for. I mean, give me a cunning roll. You don't have Medicus, do you? So give me a cunning roll at like -4. I'll make it not -5 because you're hunter. So you might have some impression of these things.
Okay, I do fully intend to call over other people to
Sure.
this out afterwards, but I'll have a look. That's a 2, which actually makes it.
Oh, weeks.
But maybe the same
weeks,
time that Almendra was
not
here?
Months. Maybe weeks, if not months.
Okay. I will call other people over. Say. Antomsty, I don't tell what might have killed him. It seems like he's been here a long time. I don't know if it matches up with Almendra being here or not.
I kind of look to Anton and go, do you want to do the honors, Father?
I'll take a look. I think I'll be a little bit careful when examining the corpse, just because I sort of fear that some of these mushrooms might be quite potent. So I might just sort of nudge with foot. But yeah, I'll do a medicus roll to try and determine.
Sure, absolutely. Give me a cunning roll. And as you do this, kind of Marvello strides over to where you are and stands next to you and Steo and says, "Feels like old times, Sergeant."
Yeah, except the murder weapons were usually a lot more obvious back then.
Any luck there, Father?
I passed the medicus roll cunning test.
You think, and you're basing this based on the quite odd, the body is kind of sprawled, but it's sprawled oddly with the back kind of arched, the arms kind of splayed out and the hands curled, and it could be down to kind of rigor mortis and these kind of things, but basically the other occasion when you've seen a body like this is someone who was poisoned.
Okay. Poisoned. That's my guess.
Poison or venom.
Are there any obvious marks on the body that indicate a bite or anything like that?
You're pretty sure if it had been like, a blow from a weapon, it would still be visible on this level of desiccation. A bite from a spider, especially if it was like not, Zanafa sized,
Yeah.
probably undetectable at this stage of decomposition.
Okay.
Just before we move on, somewhat gingerly and a little bit surreptitiously, I'm going to poke at the pile of desiccated mushrooms to see if I recognize the golden get out of jail free mushroom my heart so desperately desires.
You do not. You know what you see? You see mushrooms that look like edible mushrooms you're very familiar with.
Oh.
But they're pretty stale
Pretty far
and
gone.
desiccated by now. Yeah.
Why would Elmendra would have come down here? Was she
Maybe she was a
looking for
mushroom fan.
supplies? Or wrong
One
turn?
of, as you say this, one of the rangers who, or actually, Lindra will kind of come back to the group. You basically realize she's gone on ahead a little bit. She comes back and says, "There's a tunnel at the end of the hall." She went in that direction. It looks like it goes up.
Ah.
I'm going to, as calmly and respectfully as possible, see if the corpse has any pockets.
It does. And in them you find various other picked plant life from down here that is now, rubbery and or
Mulch.
solid. Yeah.
Okay.
And nothing else.
Fair enough.
Alicina is going to she wanders over, having kind of looked up and down a few times, and kind of wanders back over to the group, looks at Captain Marvello and says, "There is much here. I feel I should insist." Right. We're going to take a moment here. There are things of value to be gathered that are of importance to our allies in the Ordo Magica. I would suggest that we not let this pause hold us back from exploration. How would our brave heroes of the sinkhole feel about investigating Elmendra's little U-turn back there?
Yeah.
Is there any reason that we wouldn't all go? If there's work to be done here, then
I think he said to make it faster.
Okay.
The mage can't stay here on her own. But if you go to make it, speedier. That's his proposition anyway.
Let's split up. It'll be quicker that way. Okay.
Lindra sort of leans in and says, "We are still not entirely perhaps on the same page. Should they find..." Marvello shakes his head and cuts her off somewhat tersely and says, "If Elmendra found what she was looking for back there, she would not have proceeded forward." Fine.
What exactly are you gathering here that's of value? These mushrooms?
Various of these plants are apparently highly valuable for research purposes, presumably especially the ones that our good ally here says she has never seen before in her life. despite being a master of the Order Magica.
Well, I think it's a grand idea. Let the Rangers catch their breath. We can go and take a look on this little see if we can find a wild goose in these caves.
And
Fine, just
to ensure that we're all on the same page, if I could suggest that Master de Gesto and his ally stay here, and in return, some of my rangers will accompany you.
fine. You are going to remain in this chamber, though, yes?
We will remain here until your return.
Okay.
If you do not return within a number of hours, we will proceed forwards. But follow the tracks and you will find us.
Okay.
It's reasonable.
Father Salage, where he's been kind of sat on his haunches looking with interest at a sort of glowing purple algae that's been kind of cultivated in these odd little cubes of rock, stands up and says, I will accompany you if you do not mind. I'm curious to see more.
If you're sure you would not rather take advantage of the rest.
I have had enough rest. And while we're on the topic of him, because we've forgot to swing back to that, Stephen, would you tell us what Ilindra knows about the family Salage?
So I don't have anything in my notes about how Argaton Salage fits into the family, but I do know that Salage was the surname of the first father, who was named as such for being the black cloak that was instrumental in rescuing Queen Corinthia from the war. So he's somewhere between war hero and saint, and like I guess the Black Cloaks is kind of a family business now.
Maybe that could certainly be. Yeah. First Father Jessup Guy, who is the leader of the Sun Church, it was a member of the Salage noble family before he had to abandon his name in order to become First Father. It's a kind of Pope deal, right? Like Jessup Guy is not his birth name; it's his taken name as the First Father. So, yeah. So, okay. Are we going to go and look what this diversion of Almendras was then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you exit the hall and move through this central chamber and onwards to essentially carry on the direction that you were going.
Who is
before you were diverted?
Who is with us?
Obviously, all of you. Father Salage, a couple of rangers. I don't think Eusebia cares about knowing. So I think Eusebia is probably still with the others. So you're like the smaller group, though not by a huge amount.
Okay.
Okay.
Two rangers and a black cloak.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. You proceed onwards down this large tunnel. Essentially, the continuation, as I said, of where you first sort of came in. As you are moving forwards, let's have. Sam stepped away. Interesting. Who thinks they might be accompanying Sam at the front now?
The Rangers. I'm nominating them to go at the front.
Sure. Okay. Oh, there he is. He has returned. Sam, you are heading down the tunnel towards this kind of U-turn, presumed U-turn of Almendra's. Can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
Yep. That's a 2. Makes it.
Okay. You basically come across another patch of webbing across the tunnel, but in seeing it, you have fully identified where it is, and if you want, you can cut it down or burn it or proceed straight through it and not give a shit, or carefully kind of make your way around it. It's entirely up to you.
I think having seen it before walking into it, I would talk to the rest of the party about it and say, like, we've walked through one of these earlier, but there's a big web all across the tunnel here. I don't know if walking through it is a bad idea, or I mean, it seems like we have to get through it somehow. I don't know if there's any other option.
Is there any way we could go around it? Spider webs are designed to tell spiders where you are. If we don't hit it, they don't know where we are.
It has been many decades since my lessons in natural philosophy, but I have to say I agree with Sergeant Steo. It is, generally speaking, wise not to walk into a spider's web.
I mean, I agree with. Is there a way to walk around it, or is it across the whole?
No, like there's certain strands of it, but if you kind of duck and duck to the side a bit, you can all kind of get around it without sort of it's fine.
Okay, let's avoid it and maybe leave something here to stop
Like
us walking it on the way back.
Now, that's a good idea. Yeah, spotting it is the hard part. Getting kind of around it, generally speaking, is not what you've seen so far. Is not difficult. Okay, out of curiosity, what do you leave?
What have I got? Maybe like I think I'm carrying an arrow. I've got plenty of arrows. Yeah, I'll leave an arrow here, like in the dirt. Easy to spot.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, all of you can move around the cobweb perfectly successfully. And as you're moving forwards, there is something very much apparent as you're moving forwards. One is that the air is getting even damper. The second is that the waves are now loud enough for all of you to hear. And very soon, there is another sound emerging from the dark ahead of you. The faint, melodic sound of birds.
The witches keep an arboretum.
That I did not expect.
Never heard of
What are
birds that hit the ground, but we can't be about to emerge, can we? Surely.
What do the tracks say, Askrai? We're still following the route?
Yeah, there's where she went.
Well, we trust Almendra, so let's see what manner of birds live underground.
Well, more. Your senses tell you all more as you move forwards. First of all, from the sound alone, you can tell that there is a space ahead of you, a vast space in which this bird song is echoing. You can tell it's coming from some distance, but you can also tell it's kind of rolling around a truly enormous space. You then glimpse around. Kind of, you suddenly realize that ahead of you there's like a slight kink in the tunnel, and you then all realize that that even though it's maybe about 30 feet ahead of the torchlight, there is a soft, grainy, cold light coming from the ground further in, and as you approach it, you can see that this strange light almost seems to be kind of like softly glowing from the ground of the tunnel. It is an odd off-white that, as you get closer, seems to be a particular kind of perhaps moss that's growing. It seems odd and kind of odd to step on, kind of weirdly like tough, not kind of like soft and giving way. And as you round yet another kink ahead of you, you see that there is ahead of you a vast, vast open space in the bowels of Karvosti. And you can also see the brink of an enormous underground lake ahead of you. The lake seems to be suffused with this moss or algae, and there's a kind of like gentle white light rising up from it, as if the water itself is a kind of glowing source of this light. You cannot see any birds, but you can hear them like further ahead over the waters, singing quite a kind of beautiful melodic tune. I would like each of you to roll vigilant, please. Give me the old thumbs up, thumbs down. Oh, not quite the same as before. So Elindra, Antom, and Askarai, you notice something else. In the dark between you and the strange light of the lake is a figure, an enormous figure, over 3 meters tall, crowned with what seem to be maybe antlers, maybe horns of some kind. They are humanoid. They are stood there and seem to be gazing across the lake. Now, I know Chris did, or Steo rather. How many of the three of you think you may have been someone who listened to rumors, stories, tales in their time on Karvosti?
I think Astro would have at some point.
And Tom, no, obviously. Wasn't there really. Askarai maybe. How about Elindra?
I don't recall ever saying, "Oh, hey, I'm going to listen to local stories." So
yeah, and Elindra's
probably
a bit more kind of grounded, right? So maybe wouldn't care so much. I don't know.
Elindra's first thought is that she hopes that she's found the sculpture hall.
Sure. Yep. Okay, Askarai. Can you give me a cunning roll, please, at let's say +3?
That is a 13, exactly what I needed.
This figure, enormous, tall humanoid with these towering antler-like things, is a dead ringer for the descriptions you've heard of the mysterious being known as Aloena, who dwells sometimes atop Karvosti and sometimes apparently straight up murders people, but a lot of the time doesn't. And she seems to be just standing there staring out at the lake.
What are the tracks doing here?
The tracks, they go a bit further forward, but like you would basically have to approach a bit closer in order to tell if they go and do something or if they approach Aloena herself.
Yeah, looks like you might finally be getting your wish.
You're gonna is that enough to draw my attention to the figure that I missed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And so I know it's the forest friend. Will I make the cunning roll just to verify, or?
No. I
live.
think like Ascarise made the connection, and I think you can certainly make the connection if you. How long has this been up? I just realised we've been playing the entire bloody thing with that up.
I wasn't sure if you'd left it there for the aesthetic or not, but
Let's say yes.
I think there is artwork of the forest friend, but anyway, Steo will be visibly a little starstruck. It's like, yes, I knew it. I told you.
is it an elf?
No one knows. That's the thing. Also, no one knows if it's dangerous or not. Well, no one knows under what circumstances it is dangerous.
Yeah, everyone's pretty certain that it's dangerous. Just not exactly what
Occasionally
causes it.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fair, Ascari. You're occasionally dangerous.
Yeah, true.
Is this conversation happening in hushed tones? I'm assuming.
Yes, it
I
is.
think so.
So, can you find where did Elmendra speak to it?
I mean, the treks lead generally inwards, closer, but who knows if it was even here when Almendra was here? And we'd probably have to get close enough for it to definitely notice us to know if Almendra went and talked to it or did something with it. It's big.
There's a sparkle in Steo's eyes that I don't think anyone has ever seen before.
Steo, you're normally so afraid of horrible Davakar creatures, and yet now, of all times, now
he's like a Hollywood celebrity with a weird obsession with Bigfoot. It's just the one thing that makes him super weird.
There's so much we could learn.
You're scaring me a bit, Steo.
I think Steo's nominated himself to approach this being.
I'll do it. Just tie a rope to me and pull me out if the statistically somewhat likely thing happens.
That can't help with everything.
But it doesn't often hurt.
You enter into combat
here.
You enter into combat with this mysterious creature. Quick, yank at the person fighting around their waist with a rope. Okay, Steo, are you kind of walking forwards then?
I think I'm going to walk forwards then. There is aside from being starstruck, there is a logic here. We need something to start breaking our ineffable move, or from Steve's perspective, we need something to break our ineffable path towards learning stuff we're not supposed to learn. Now, I hope that doesn't involve all of us getting killed, but maybe that involves making friends with a scary forest monster who might be sympathetic to the Iron Pact.
Sure. Okay. You start walking forwards. Give me a vigilant roll as you do so.
9,
Okay.
which is a success.
Okay. After only a few paces forwards, you notice that Elmendra's tracks double back quite quickly. And as you kind of like notice this and kind of register this, the tall, not slender, but definitely kind of elongated figure of Alowena gently turns towards you, reaches up one odd kind of grayish, almost bark-like finger to her lips. Do not be loud. In perfect Ambrian. As she turns to you, you see a number of things. First, that she has kind of an odd, dark sort of featurelessness to her eyes, and a kind of oddly, slightly feline, elongated face. I'm not going to make you roll for it reminds you of elves, but albeit she's quite different from all the other elves you've met, but I will ask for a cunning roll for you to make one connection.
I'm
Is that a yes?
delighted, everyone. That is a 7.
Many of the elves you've met have looked slightly different from each other. If you had to pick any one elf that this figure reminds you of, it would be the elf at the gateway of the Hall of 1,000 Tears, who was far taller and far odder looking than any other elf you have met. Just a connection. The other thing is what appear to be kind of antler. They do look like antlers sprouting from the top of her head, but now you're closer, you can see they look more like branches, kind of tree-like horns growing out and spreading away from the top of this head, which is quite a way above you. She follows the initial statement with, "Do not wake the slumber." She indicates past her towards the lake, and now that she's tilted to the side and you can see more of it, you see more of it, and more than that, you see something at the bottom of the lake. A huge dark shadow against the light of the algae. Like a vast shape curled beneath the waters. You can all hear in here that thumping sound resolves itself, and beneath the waters you sense that every time it thumps is when the waves lap the shore. You're pretty sure they're not waves. You're pretty sure that whatever lies below the waters has a heartbeat, and that heartbeat is vast and powerful enough to create waves on the lake and to send tremors running through the rock of Karvosti.
I will not take any further steps towards, and kind of in the shade of my own body, I will kind of take off my glove to reveal the iron ring, and say, "I understand that you are to be called Alowena. Would you be my friend in strife and sorrow?"
No, that I need not do. That is not my purpose here.
I understand. My purpose here is not the purpose I would have. I am a hostage of a group of Ambrians who seek to learn things they should not know. If you have any guidance, I will not press you into service, but I would appreciate your wisdom.
All that I need do here is help the lulling singers sustain the slumber of Garavarax. If they do not wish to wake him, I need do nothing.
Thank you. I will re-glove myself and walk away.
As soon as you start walking away, she turns away from you and stares back over the surface of the lake.
return to the... Still with that glint of just sheer glee. Right. Which one of you's feckers said I wouldn't meet the forest friend? I met the forest friend. However, they're not going to help us, and we really shouldn't be here. Because there's a thing in that water that's a catastrophe.
Another one?
Yeah, we've come to the catastrophe capital of Davokar. We should have
You're on
expected
mute.
it.
I think all of you kind of seen the slumbering form of presumably Garavarax under the waters when Alowena turned. I don't think, like, Steer was closer, but whatever that is under there is real big. Like, I want to make it clear, whatever that is under there, what's the largest thing the group as a whole? Probably like Thorn Queen, Fangaffa, probably kind of kaiju sized, right? Yeah.
Eox?
No.
Okay.
Eox is like the same size as like a prehistoric, like a mammoth or something, probably smaller than a mammoth, right? Like a big prehistoric beast, a mammal. Fangaffa was like a towering mass of writhing, thorny tentacles and slightly Lovecraftian kaiju weirdness. If this is Garavarax is a whole lot bigger than Fangaffa.
Godzilla size.
Sure, yeah. None of you could really see
It's
exactly what the form was, but yeah.
It's big enough that we don't really have a word for the next thing up from kaiju, right?
Yeah.
But it's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, okay.
Okay. I mean, great work, Steve. I guess leave immediately is our plan.
Is there another way out of here? Could Amanda have come in and then...
No, Almendra absolutely did a 180 as soon as she saw our friend over there.
Tell you what, though, this would have evened up the Battle of Karvosti had it happened.
Yeah, I don't think
not-
that thing is taking sides.
I am not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying that's a thing that's down here.
That definitely is a thing that's down here.
That even if just all the humans die on both sides, I guess maybe.
Davokar won. Everybody else, nothing.
Let's get back before we outstay our welcome here.
Let's.
The two rangers are kind of looking quite wide-eyed at all this, and anyone who wants to be paying attention can see that Father Soleil is kind of like staring out at Alowena and over the lake with quite a emotional and kind of teary look on his face. He seems to be not in a state of shock, as just like a, he seems very affected by this.
I'm going to
I'll
ask him.
strike up. I'd like to ask him while we're passing. It's like,
what is it, Father?
These wonders down here, I never knew. I should have known so long ago. We should go on. We do not need to be down here. No matter the wondrous nature of this place, we have business to do here, and it would be dangerous to tarry.
it is always dangerous to tarry underneath the forest. Try and remember that.
He nods and kind of even kind of claps you on the shoulder slightly, and says, "Right you are, Sergeant. Lead on."
Can I make some kind of roll? What I'm trying to work out is whether Solange has merely had his faith shaken by the idea that there are bigger and older and weirder things in the world than Prios, or whether it's something more like specific and personal. Is there somewhere I can?
I don't think so. Like this is actually an interesting point, and I'm very happy to talk about this at the end of the episode if we want, like with people. That's exactly the kind of role that's quite often asked for in role playing games.
But there is none.
This is no judgment on yourself at all. I kind of casually hate that kind of role because it's like, can I magically sense someone else's inner workings, or it's like that? Can I roll to tell if they're lying? Sort of thing.
Sure.
Well,
Okay.
no, not really, because we can't do that in real life. So why would we else be doing this? Like, I think there is some room for it if it's like, especially if it's like someone you know well, or like they're showing more visible signs of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I don't know this guy, but my thinking was more that I kind of know what it's like to be confronted with things that kind of sort of shake your faith in Prios. But
sure,
whether that's enough to be able to spot that in someone else, I don't know.
I get that, and I would say no in this. It's certainly in this specific case, but
fair enough.
I would say that, like, from what you've seen, like, you probably be open to both of those things being true in the case of this person, but you simply don't have the knowledge of them, or
okay,
if that's okay. Okay, are we heading back towards the sort of plantation hall?
Yep.
Okay. You do so. It doesn't take you too long at all. The rangers who are like alongside Askarai at the end kind of like let out a low whistle as you turn and enter the room. The whistle is returned, and very soon the group kind of gathers together again. You don't see any sign of Lindra, who's presumably maybe scouting forwards again. The mage seems to be sort of like looking with quite a dour expression at the satchel by her side, which is now literally just full of various specimens that have been plucked from the rocks. And Marvello kind of walks forward. He seems to have been standing with the Gesto, perhaps trying to keep the peace or something like that. And he takes a couple of steps forward and says, Good. Any trouble?
The potential of trouble, but nothing attacked us, if that's what you're after.
Anything of interest? Anything Almendra found?
Well, Almendra found, I don't know, maybe it feels like she was sightseeing, but she went to, she found the lake, the great lake, and the guardian of Karvosti, the creature spirit, the forest creature. You've heard the rumors about it.
The creature from the trees on top of the plateau.
Yes. It is keeping watch over a body of water.
Interesting.
Pretty normal day under the forest, but not the kind of place I'd want to disturb or make any loud noises in, or be brash in the vicinity of.
Very well. Shall we proceed onwards then?
Yes.
He unslings his shield and strides onward. You see that Lindra is indeed at the other end of the hall, and she seems to be kind of very happy that the group is actually starting to move again, and starts to stride forwards. Askarai, you going to join her again at the front?
Yep. I'm going to make a point of looking out for these cobwebs as well. So it's seems like I know there's more of them now. So
That seems like a good idea. As you step forward, you can see that this the kind of new path that Elmendra's footsteps take. First off, it is definitely what you would describe as a crack, not a tunnel. It seems very kind of natural, and you can still go sort of two abreast, but it's a lot tighter. You're kind of brushing each other's shoulders as you're doing so. And immediately the crack starts kind of leading in an upwards path. Oh, hang on one second. There's a very complex map, as you might imagine. Yeah. Yeah. There's and as you move forward, you definitely get the sense that you are starting to move into an area that's almost entirely, like, you see the side tunnels and various things. This whole place seems natural. It does not seem man-made anymore. Presumably the man-made elements were perhaps the bottom part of the tunnels, and now you're starting to move up further up into an area where these all these tunnels and caves seem to be a natural part of the plateau formation. As you move forwards, one thing you do see is that the tracks are becoming more difficult to detect. Lindra and Askarai are both having to halt a bit more and sort of be sure about kind of that they're following the right one. Askarai, for your information, you're starting to see more, albeit older, tracks here, more human tracks. This seems to be a much more trodden area of these tunnels underneath. But you're still fairly sure that A, Elmendra is one of the newer sets, and B, that between you and Lindra, you're pretty sure you can stay as long as it continues in this manner. I'd also like a vigilant roll for me, please.
okay, 1 second. I just dropped. Okay. That is a 19, so a failure.
Okay, I will roll also for Lindra because it seems unfair not to. And yeah. So you basically both just walk through a mass of cobwebs again. Exactly the same as you did last time. So well done you. And I asked you to roll a D10 last time. Could you roll a D4 this time, please?
Oh no. That seems really bad. That's a 2.
Okay. Carry on. Lindra does the same thing of like kind of burning the cobwebs away from the walls and the ceiling as you kind of walk forward through them. She doesn't seem to think too much of this, although she's certainly a bit warier for a minute or so after walking through them.
I think after having discussed the previous one with the group and intentionally avoiding it, Askrai will mention this to the rest of the group and just be like, we've just gone through another cobweb. We should be careful if we can. I'm sorry, we just didn't see it. Catch up with Lindra.
Okay. As you are moving onwards, Askarai, not to be repetitive, but could you give me another vigilant roll, please?
Okay. That's an 11, which succeeds.
Okay. You notice the tracks kind of almost seem to like halt briefly at a doorway, like they kind of move upwards and then halt and then move slightly to the side and move on, as if someone had kind of come to a halt, maybe looked in. And it's where there's like quite a large opening off the side of this long cracked tunnel. And when you kind of turn and look, you can see that there's like a mostly burnt out torch just kind of lying on the ground within what looks like maybe a relatively large chamber. Can you give me a cunning roll, please? Cunning roll actually at like +4 or something, I think is absolutely fine.
Okay. That's a 6. So it definitely makes it.
If you had to guess, Elmendra stopped, threw the remains of her torch in there to take a quick look at what was in there, and then clearly didn't think she had to take a look in there, and then carried on going.
Yeah.
But it definitely looks quite different to every other thing. Like the opening is much larger than basically every opening you've seen to this point, except maybe for the one leading into the lake.
I guess we can't see anything that's actually in there. If Almendra with a torch, then we probably can't.
Well, maybe she saw that, but if the torch was lit when she did it, yeah. Obviously, if you took a few steps in there and looked, you could see what's in there. But
I mean,
Lindra seems perfectly happy as you're investigating this. Lindra is like, she's looking at the door with some curiosity, but not making any moves herself to do anything about it.
I'm bringing this up to the, I mentioned to people, looks like Almendra looked in here. Perhaps she thought she was close to what she was looking for, or just didn't really know where she was headed, but she took a look in here, but carried on. I don't know if that means we should definitely avoid it or take a look.
I think we should follow the footsteps until there becomes a need to do something other than that.
Yep. Very fair.
Okay. Yeah. So we pass by this opening and carry onwards. And as you're moving on now, this whole area, kind of the tunnel that you're in, this crack in the earth is definitely moving upwards at kind of a relatively steep rate. So you do feel like you're very much sort of ascending through the plateau upwards. Can you give me another vigilant roll, please, Sam?
A 3. So yes.
Okay. You come to another opening, kind of on the opposite side. Not that particularly matters, but it's smaller than the other one, but also looks like a man-made opening in the side of this natural crack. You almost miss it, but Elmendra's tracks definitely divert into here and then back out again. You almost missed it because the ground. There seem to be a number of other tracks there that have scuffed Elmendra's soft shoe marks aside, but she definitely diverted into here.
Question.
Lindra has not noticed it.
Lindra, I think you might have missed something here. And I will point out these tracks.
I see. You're right. We better look. She doesn't seem to register your... Or, I mean, you could interpret it charitably that she was just like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Lindra's definitely a bigger person, that's for sure. We'll talk about this in the group. Looks like Almendra went in here and came back out and carried on, but definitely went in. So I guess we have to go in and see what there is.
Okay.
If she came back out, that's good odds.
So, as you step in, You're stepping into what seems to be a sort of man-made tunnel leading to a larger area. Could you all give a vigilant roll, please? So everyone with a yes there, which it's our classic Ask Ryan Anton pairing again. The air in this tunnel leading to the larger space is pungent and seems kind of unsound. It doesn't immediately strike you as dangerous, but it's certainly relatively rough to breathe. You can also hear a couple of noises coming from further into the open space. The wretched whimper of some kind of beast and what sounds like bone tapping against iron.
I'm going to cast Blessed Shield.
Sure.
Are either of you making any effort to alert the rest of us that this might be a bad idea?
I think Astro mentioned that there's something in here. But well, very
Lindra
quietly
has-
say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Lindra, as she's walking forwards, has kind of pulled like a handkerchief or a swatch of cloth out from her leathers and has kind of like tapped a sprinkling of water onto it from a canteen at her side and is kind of holding it over her mouth. She kind of glances back at the rangers arrayed behind her and they all do the same.
Okay, now you mention it. The air here is bad, and we know the rules of how we survive these tunnels.
It's time to
Please
go.
let's step back.
Wasn't that-
Lindra leans in and says, "We know the rules of how a frightened young girl survives these tunnels."
Pride beneath the forest is a corpse.
It is not pride, Sergeant. It is boldness.
Can sort of just gesture down the tunnel at the Rangers.
Lindra shrugs and turns and starts moving forward, as do the Rangers.
I do not follow.
Ambry and Steel make swords and spoons. Let's get out of here. Tell the others what's going on. I'm not following them in there.
We know that Almendra returned from that, and also we don't know what she found. What if we need to find something?
Then the Rangers will report it back. I don't want to go in there unless I am compelled to.
Unless they find it and don't tell us, or unless they go down there and die because there's only 3 of them.
Wasn't our warning against a sickly smell?
Sickly,
Oh,
pungent smells.
Ah, it is pungent.
Look, I don't want this fight, friends. If you want this fight, I'll go in because I'll always follow you. But with every bone in my body, we have our instructions for how to survive this. They've chosen to disobey them. I say we obey them.
They sent us off to explore the lake. I think it's their turn to strike out on their own if that's what they really want to do. I'm not interested in going down that tunnel.
I can support that logic, Lindra.
Okay, it sounds to me like we're not following the Rangers. Is that right? Okay. Marvello kind of glances after them and sort of shrugs and seems to sort of stay with you. Father Soleil also goes in after the Rangers. De Gesto kind of shrugs and goes, "Well, I say, it's our turn." And he follows in. Notably, he and Malamai also do take the Rangers lead and kind of like try and, if Malamai doesn't have anything like a handkerchief, but he just like pulls some of his kind of.
I
the
will
cloth of
hand
his-
Malamai a handkerchief before he goes.
Oh no, like they've stroked, unless you want to yell after them. Do you want to yell after them?
No.
Do you want to yell in the Karvosti tongue? No? Okay. No, fine. Yeah, they vanish in there. And while you're out here, let's have who do I think could reasonably roll this? I mean, I hate to put all this on Ascarai as our scout, but I think he is the person. And you know what? I'll have Alindra as well for reasons. Because Alindra's kind of thinking more about the instructions from a leader than anyone else, I think. So let's have a roll from Stephen and Sam of cunning. It's quite a challenging one. It's going to be a cunning at -3.
Ooh,
And I know that
okay.
cunning isn't everyone's strong suit, so or in the game.
That's a fail. And
I
also
rolled-
in the game.
I rolled a 6, which actually makes it.
As you're stood here waiting and kind of listening with some, trepidation, you're going over the route that everything's taken you, and in your head you kind of do a little bit of sort of like calculation, I guess, of the distances you walked, the angles you walked at. This chamber seems to you probably pretty directly above the Undergate.
Which is where we think the Holdra is.
That's Lindra had already made that assumption anyway, I think. Certainly I had.
I will bring this up. This could be the Holdra. With roughly above where the gate was.
Oh, shite. Well, that changes the math, doesn't it?
But there could be something terrible between us and the Holdra.
The
All
Holdra
the
might be
Rangers could
terrible
be
as
going
well.
in to kill the Holdra right now.
For all we know, the Holdra is the person that keeps the secret that we're looking for.
Right.
From somewhere further into the chamber, you hear what sounds like a kind of like a human crying out in alarm, but kind of like not it's not like a horror movie noise, it's just kind of someone yelping an alarm. And then you hear a few moments later what sounds like a inhuman, a beastly kind of yelp of anger and pain, which is cut off quite quickly.
Well, I found it. And her.
We should go. We've come way too far to let the Rangers control our fate like this.
I am already dousing my scarf in water.
Okay. Marvello similarly has done the same and is already kind of moving forwards. And Yosefia and her henchmen accompany you as well. You head in, you emerge into unlike the kind of entranceway in the tunnel leading to it, you emerge into what seems like a natural cavern between 50 and 100 meters in diameter, with a height varying between 5 and 15, so quite varied in kind of the various layout and size of it. In it are what look like 14 steel cages in various shapes and sizes. They seem of quite old make. And in fact, as you pass by the first couple of them, you can see what appear to be Symbaric runes carved into their bars. The air in here is exactly the same as it was in the tunnel. Pungent, unsound, acrid. Each breath, even through the any damp handkerchiefs you're holding, makes your windpipes burn with pain slightly. Although it doesn't seem to be an effect that's kind of escalating in any way. It's like I would compare it to, has anyone been, I'm sure most of us here have been in like a garage or like a mechanics engineer place or whatever, where they're using quite pungent chemicals, right? And it's not a case that like it's going to hurt you, but when you come out, it's a bit raw, right? It's like that, but more. Okay. So it's not pleasant, and you're probably going to have a sore throat for some time afterwards, but it doesn't seem to be like you're not being poisoned. You're not about to keel over and start hacking and coughing. Inside, you see the rangers stood around what seems to be the body of an animal on the floor. One of the rangers is kind of like holding their arm and quite copiously bleeding from it, while another one of them is kind of like cursing at them to stay still and bandage it up. The beast on the ground looks like it used to be a Jakar, but that the Davakar has had its way with it, right? It has pustules on it, odd growths, and it's that in general they're all gathered outside a cage, one of these steel cages, which has the door hanging open. In a number of the other cages, there are corpses. There is what looks to be a barbarian man with abnormally long arms, skin coarse like the bark of a tree, and horns growing out of his bald head. There is the remains of a female goblin with monstrous fangs and pale skin covered in black streaks, and a wolf-like creature where their fur has in many places been replaced with moss. Its head looks more like that of a wild boar, only with 10 tusks and a long snake-like tongue that's still twitching and wriggling slightly, even though the creature definitely looks dead. The only other occupied cage holds what looks to be an elven woman, quite a young elf by the look of her. Doesn't look to be marked by corruption. She's sitting down with her knees to her chin, knocking her knuckles hard against the bottom of the steel cage. Her knuckles are bruised and bloodied. And that's it. One of the other, the largest, most of the other cages that are empty are shut. There is, however, a very large cage slightly separated away from the others where the door is fully open, but the cage is empty.
The elven woman is clearly alive. I guess we would talk to the rangers and ask them what happened.
As you kind of go over to them, you can hear them kind of talking in hushed tones to each other. I didn't want to just leave it in there. It looked like it was starving. It just looked like a dog. Lindra leans in. Well, that should be a fucking lesson to you then, shouldn't it? It's fine. It's all fine. We just had a moment of stupidity. We haven't touched anything else. We haven't spoken to the elf.
Kind of in parallel to this, I'll take a quick aside with Alindra and go, oh, that's interesting. Looks like the northern clans deal with their abominations the same way that the church do. Store them underground.
This is quarantine.
Alicina, the Ordo Mage, says, that's what this air is. It's to keep the prisoners docile and struggling to breathe. Brutal. Effective.
It's not so different to what we do when we're confronted with this. I can't see a good reason to stay here. Can you?
And we need to talk to the elf.
I say we talk to the elf. She's held prisoner here for some reason. That was Lindra, in case it wasn't clear from the words.
I think if she's here, we should be very, very cautious about letting her out, which is what I imagine she's going to try to talk us into.
And Tom, you can speak Elvish, right?
I can. I'll make my way kind of towards the cage, but keeping a good, like, sort of 5-6 feet away from it before I try and address her.
Okay. Yeah, again, she's definitely showing no visible signs of corruption.
Maybe speak with you.
Her eyes kind of flick up to you. She basically hasn't looked at anyone since you came into the chamber, but her eyes flick up as you speak to her in Elvish. You may do as you wish.
Can I ask who put you here?
The witches.
You've been here for a long time.
Long enough. Long enough that I think my bones may rest here.
Why?
The witches do not like my kind on their plateau.
You're kind of different to the other creatures here.
This is where they put those they wish to forget. They wish to forget that I managed to climb all the way up here without them knowing. They wish to forget the corrupted in their midst. And they wish to forget their old Huldra.
Can I ask what you came here for?
You can ask. I will not tell. What do you come here for?
Lots of different reasons, it seems.
Did you come to this chamber seeking answers? Well, you did not seek them from me. She's gone. She was released from her cage over there. She indicates the large cage over on the other side of the room.
Did you speak with her at all?
I saw no reason to speak to that thing. Nor with those who set her free.
Sorry, who set her free?
She was set free by those who rule these caverns now. The Spider Princess, daughter of Zanatha. And I think we'll end the session there, folks. Lovely stuff. If you've got any comments or questions, sling them into the chat and we'll address them in just a second. We'll also address all the other ones that you've slung in there up till now. Thank you for those. I will do some quick promo. If you check down below here, there's a number of links to YouTube, links to Twitch. You watching on one of those, please check out the other one. We stream on Twitch and then it all goes to YouTube because that's the way everyone does it. Why should we be any different? We're all just sheep. There's also links to our social media, to our Discord, to our Patreon. We've got a store now as well, merch stuff. Check our link tree. It's all in that. we run a number of weekly campaigns at the moment. Vason on Mondays, Symbaroum on Wednesdays. Alternating Thursdays is Wicked Ones. The other Thursday in that alternation is about to become the end of the Big Wet, which hopefully will return next week, but yeah, slightly up in the air. We run one-shots once every month with various different systems. There's loads of that over on YouTube if you want to check it out. The next one of which is hopefully this Sunday and is Johnny's next installment in his Space Age Call of Cthulhu series. You probably won't have to have any prior knowledge of those to check that one out. It's kind of an anthology, right? For people who've been in John, you've been in it before, right? It's like an anthology thing, right? So you don't need to watch them in order or anything.
You don't. Like adding the previous ones will give you the Easter eggs and answer questions and so on. It's all an expanded universe.
Sure, the Johnny Space Age Cthulhu expanded universe. So check that out. That'll hopefully be on this Sunday. I think that's it. Let me see if there's any. Thank you for the follow from Eldon the Gnome. Thank you for a subscribe from Lucas Cunningham. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Lucas. And comments, questions, things, curios. Don't Kick Food. Petition to rename 2/3 of the Lindra, Elindra, Elmendra triumvirate to Kate and Jennifer. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of it going about. Seconded. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And I could have done it, I guess. I could have just changed them. But I didn't. So that's where we are now.
Yeah. There are a few things that I change about the way that the Symbaroum rulebook works, and one of them is that I would not have had the list of suggested character names be so similar to NPC names.
Character names. Yeah. I agree.
It does
Should
at
call
least
them
make
Alison.
it feel more realistic in an annoying way.
Yeah.
Should call them Alice and Bob just for the cryptographic nerd credits.
Next. Lucas, Lindworm was the biggest beast they encountered, if I remember correctly.
How many lindworms stuck
in terms
together?
of just size? The and which lindworm? Because we've encountered 2 lindworms, right? I think the biggest creature you've encountered. Oh, that's a good thing though. So it's going to be one of 2, right? I think Fangaffer edges it, Queen of Thorns from Tomb of Dying Dreams. I think she edges it. But number 2, and you're quite right, and I forgot about this, is the Lindworm from the close of Bell Tolls for Castor. Which was definitely... It's definitely bigger than the Lindworm from the beginning of Witchhammer. So, yeah. Which is possibly the 3rd, and then Eox. I don't know.
How big? I mean, this has become very relevant. How big was Zenatha?
Zenatha is up there as well for sure. Yeah, but not in that top 2 position.
Okay,
like Fangaffer was definitely the biggest of the. I mean, technically, the Creeping Darkness was really big as well. It was just kind of insubstantial, Yeah, so it's difficult to.
So what?
To judge it.
What's our scale for Garavarax? Like, how many whales strapped together and what kind of whales?
What kind of whales? Yeah, like
how many of the country of Wales strapped together?
Which is thematic given Alowina's accent, right? Oh God, I don't know. Let me think about that. Like, Garavarax is so big that it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, how I don't want to give like an exact comparison because that feels like it devalues it somehow. But let me just say, so I think Godzilla size, like the smaller end of Godzilla size, is actually quite a good thing for Fangaffer. Like like I say, kaiju, like fucking what are they called? Jaegers, right? In Pacific Rim. I would say that Fangaffer is like about the size of one of them. Garavarax, probably not exponentially, because then mathematicians will take me seriously when I say that. But exponentially bigger. Not like, ooh, Fangaffer and a bit, like way bigger. You know,
Doesn't the second
think of a reasonably sized lake that you've seen, like a proper lake, like a lake with a fucking name, right? You know, that you've seen in a nice national park or something. Garavarax is only slightly smaller than that lake.
Yeah,
because Garak is directly under the waters.
Easily mistakable for geography.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I think the fact we can like hear its or feel its heartbeat from presumably like miles away is
the heartbeat gave that lake waves.
It's big.
Big boy.
So indescribably big and ancient creature lying sleeping beneath the water.
Yeah, with
Definitely
a vaguely curled up humanoid shape.
Could you describe him as a chonker?
You certainly could. If you really wanted to.
Could you describe him as a unit?
We could go through increasingly more dated internet terminology if you want, but yes, all these things.
It's of a bigness that Games Workshop have probably trademarked the word for it.
Sure, yeah. It's of a bigness that when someone produces the model, it will be a Forge World model instead of a Games Workshop model.
Yeah.
Means nothing to most of you, but there we go. Yeah, 42, about 10,000 lambs. I'd say that's on the small side, but you know.
Oh, a Terra lamb.
Terra lamb. Yeah. Put that on a shirt. Steve, is probably nothing is my favorite phrase in RPGs. Yeah, it's probably fine. Nothing to worry about. Sam with the NPC guards. Yeah. Well, the first damage that happened was when you were away from the Rangers, right? One of them thought, poor little Jakar in a cage, and opened it up. I'm glad it happened like that because I'm pretty sure one of you would have done it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you would. You definitely. You're going, idiot Ranger, but Arendar would definitely have opened that cage. And
obviously corrupted Jakar in a cage.
He said it didn't look corrupted.
It does not. As it's described in the books, it's kind of curled up, and it is only when it uncurls when the cage is open that it is obviously corrupted.
Okay, it's hidden all the pustules underneath.
Yeah.
Sure,
it's got a filthy underbelly.
Like to resist its cuteness.
G-Ren, OMG, so jelly about all the books behind the GM. Whoa! Yeah, there's quite a lot. And if you want to learn what a whole bunch of them are, we got a video for that. There's a video buried somewhere on the channel. Can someone dig it up and link it in chat? Me going through my collection. Yeah, which is probably worth the time. Although I haven't said that, maybe I should think about revisiting that. I've got an awful lot of Kickstarters through since then. In fact, I got one only the other day. Which is this? Latest from Fria Ligan.
It's Fria Ligan. Of course, they got The Walking Dead as well.
I have thoughts on this, and if you want to learn those thoughts, I suggest you sign up to our £5 Patreon because I'm probably going to talk about it on my next vlog thing. Yeah, promotional. There we go. Look at me, like I'm a proper person who can do these kind of things.
Good job.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a video. There we go. Sam popped the video in the thing. Yeah, where I walk through my collection. Next
video, or is that the channel link?
I think it's the video.
Well, that's the video anyway.
Cool. Thank you, John.
We have from Lucas like a fantastic suggestion about what a 20 on a Medicus roll would mean.
I understood Murdicus roll with his luck in with dice. Yeah.
I actually have a bit of a plan for if I roll a 20 on a Medicus roll, because I think in Blackmore, like I failed something and like incorrectly identified something that's actually poison as medicine, and I stowed it away in a pouch for like future.
You still got that.
Future use. So I've still got that knocking around. So yeah, I
Got to
think
make a note of that. Yeah.
the next time I roll 20 on a Medicus, I am having a flash of inspiration and using that instead of herbal cure.
Nice.
So woe betide anyone who is on the receiving end of that.
Good stuff.
Of that inevitable consequence.
Horror. Yeah.
How does it feel to be like somehow the second best priest on the team? And like the first best priest is just reserved for future use.
I was gonna say it's just yet another reason everyone's gonna be praying for Stio to be the one rolling their Medicus on a
Is this just?
Guys, I don't roll 20s. It's fine.
It's fine. This is
Just endless
This is like
19s.
this is like Ringo being the worst drummer in the Beatles, isn't it?
Amazing. A spider is just 4 lambs taped together. Come on, folks, get a new joke. It took like actually no, I shouldn't complain because it's taken this long for people to stop bringing up fucking buffets. So
Also, how many legs do you think a lamb has, and how many legs do you think a spider has?
that's a
what I
very good
said.
point. 16.
That was addressed in chat.
It's all gone a bit eldritch.
16
Right.
spider with 16 legs.
Biblically accurate lamb.
That is terrifying.
Oh no.
I like that, Chris.
Horrifying.
I got it. Lowy, no, come on, just be brave and face the spiders and close the door. That is good advice for life. Yeah.
Well,
It might not be a surprise that some of the players in this group don't like spiders. Just throwing it out there.
Let me tell you, if you do, you might not soon. I mean, it's fine. It's all fine. Next. Is it known which status Housedar once had? Were they dukes or counts? They definitely weren't dukes. Almost every duke in... I mean, they weren't Ambrian nobles anyway. They were Alberator nobles because Ambria didn't exist when they were nobles, really. But you know what? I don't think they were high enough to be dukes because there were undoubtedly more dukes in Alberator that weren't House Corinthia. In Ambria, I believe all but one of the dukes is from House Corinthia because that's how much of a stranglehold House Corinthia has over the.
I sort of figured in Ambria that things like dukes and I guess also counts aren't necessarily inherited titles, that like you're a noble because you're a noble, and then if you have a fancy title, it's because the queen has given you a fancy title.
There are certainly effectively commoners who have been raised by House Corinthia into being noble houses. In fact, due to their service to the crown, whether it be in the wars against the Dark Lords or in Ambria afterwards, you do inherit from parents. The reason why, essentially, like the migration of the population of Alberator over the Titans into Ambria was such a seismic societal event that many of the noble houses either fell into obscurity or were wiped out completely. Hello, Arendar. Or the things they'd achieved and owned in Alberator meant nothing compared to when they came over the Titans and who grabbed what land and who did what for the queen and who were blah, 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 which meant that the entire noble, all the noble houses were really shaken up and kind of new ones emerged as the front runners and so on and so forth. But fundamentally, as far as the duchies go, it's simply the matter of House Corinthia was the one that led the charge over the Titans and already was the queen. And then basically went, this is a duchy, that's a duchy, that's a duchy, that's a duchy. And the people who rule them are all these members of House Corinthia. Apart from one. One duchy is not held by House Corinthia, but is held by a very close ally of House Corinthia. And the nature of it being what it is, like lots of noble houses or commoners who've been raised who have real monopolies over the trade of resources in this new land, tend to have been the ones who have risen to the top, alongside anyone who could provide anything to the to House Corinthia. So, yeah, in terms of who the Dars were, though, they certainly weren't dukes. But yeah, they had land and, holdings in Alberator, but House Dar has never had a noble presence in Ambria, because the only member of House Dar to survive more than 12 months in Ambria is Arendar. And if you don't know the fate of the other longest lasting person in House Dar, then go back and watch the very first episode of Symbaroum, episode 0, the prologue. Next, what we got? We got anything else?
I think other than this vaguely threatening comment from Steve,
Steal that Spider Lamb idea for Call of Cthulhu.
yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. That's everything.
I also like this one from Lucas again.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Spider Goddess was their friend and ally. Do you feel that?
I'm
you
so
feeling that?
Maybe.
delighted, so delighted that the only creature I have kissed is back in plot again.
The thing is, like, we started as friends and allies of Samantha, but I'm pretty sure that we screwed her over. Like, she wanted a thing that we destroyed?
Yeah. She made a pact with you for the thing, and then you destroyed it rather than. So you didn't give it to one of her competitors, but you definitely didn't return it to her either. So yeah.
I can't. When we first heard, like, oh, Princess Anatha, I was like, oh great, we can be friends. And I'm like, wait a minute, does Anatha absolutely like despise us now because we ruined her plans?
Who's to say if you'll find out?
Tune in next time.
Tune in next time. We should be back next week, folks. We were talking beforehand about whether we get this wrapped up before the festive season. We think we probably won't, but who knows? You'll have more of a chance of knowing for sure if you tune in next week. Until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.